That took forever. Yeah, because I sat there for a long
So I stick my arms up every once in a while, take a picture with us. Yesterday I had a couple of committee meetings to go to. Went to some criminal cases today and then this. I wanted to go to the public safety issue. Couldn't.
Not enough time.
I didn't know Ron Kind was going to be here. I would have gone to that. So, this morning. Yeah, really.
I sometimes wear my sister's clothes.
So it's Darren.
No, it's just a memorial.
Yeah. It's probably running.
I'm sure it's sit down.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming to tonight's candidate forum. I will just give you a little run through of how tonight will go. And we will be having a moderator tonight, which is Lori Inga from Mid-State Technical College. Opening statements will be 3 minutes long, and then the rest of the questions that are asked today that were prepared prior to this event. If you do want to ask a question, you can take a note card and write it down, and we will review them before asking them if there is time allowed tonight. And then they will also have 2 minutes to answer that question, and then 3 minutes for closing this evening.
Okay, thank you. As Laura said, my name is Lori Inga. I'm with Mid-State Technical College. I'm going to open up with just, again, a 3-minute introduction for each candidate, and then we'll go right into the questions that were prepared ahead of time. We flipped a coin, and we have Investigator York going first. So I'll start right off with that 3-minute opener. Just to introduce yourself, Investigator York.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming here tonight, and thanks for the chamber to put this on, Mid-State to facilitate this. Wrestle with this cord here for a minute. My name is Brent York. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 22 years. An investigator for 11 years, was a traffic sergeant for 5 years before that, a patrol officer for 3 years, and a jail officer before that. I actually started a little time before that, part-time, working in the jail and as a transport officer as well. I'm a lifelong resident of Adams County. I've lived here my whole life. I've currently lived in the town of Richfield for 18 years. Married for 23 years to my wife, Jelaine. I have 2 teenage kids. I have had a lot of community involvement with the kids, coaching, Rush Creek Little League, a co-chair for the Rocky Mountain Health Foundation youth. My education, educated from Adams Central High School, graduated in 92. I went to Mid-State for police science and marketing. And in 2011, I went to Lakeland University to get my business management degree, bachelor's degree. I also have a first-line supervision for criminal justice professionals from University of Wisconsin, Platteville, and another related supervisory training from North Central Technical College. Today's been a difficult day for me. Today, I was placed on administrative leave from the Sheriff's Office. This afternoon, about 2:30. I had my lieutenant come to my house, take my badge, my gun, my car. from a letter that I received from our district attorney yesterday afternoon from a 2001 case that I was involved in. I've done many of these presentations standing here in front of a lot of people. I've done very well. I feel I have a lot to bring to the table to be sheriff of Adams County. I don't have words for how I feel right now. I would like to say a lot of things, but I'm better than that. And I'm not going to let this take me down.
Here we are at the 3-minute mark, so we'll go to Sheriff Wolin for the 3-minute introduction.
Can everybody hear me okay, or do you need the microphone? Can you hear me okay? For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sam Wolin. Just a little bit of my background. I was born and raised in Adams County. I grew up in Delwood. Graduated from Adams Friendship High School in '94. From there, I began my career in law enforcement by enlisting in the United States Air Force in the area of security police. In '95, I married my wife, Krista. Following year, we had our first son. Completed my enlistment in the Air Force. In '98, we decided to return home and raise our family, close to family. I started with the Sheriff's Office in 1999 as a jail officer. The following year was a busy year. We had our second son, promoted to jail sergeant, and also promoted to patrol deputy in that same year. In 2004, I was promoted again to patrol sergeant, and then in the fall of 2007, I took on the additional responsibility of the police school liaison officer, the school resource officer, as it's called today. And then in 2010, decided to run for sheriff and took office in 2011, and have served the citizens in Adams County in that capacity since then. I guess just wanted that I'm most proud of the goals that I set for myself in that position and for the sheriff's office during that time, and achieving those goals. But most important was the relationships, rebuilding relationships within the community, so that they have trust in the sheriff's office, have to know that they, when they call for service, that they're going to get the best service that they can, and that they're confident in that. And also then the relationships with other county departments, and beyond that, the surrounding counties and throughout the state. So I think that that's been the key to the success of the sheriff's office for the last 8 years has been relationships, and that probably the thing that I'm most proud of over the last 10 years sheriff. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for everybody.
Okay, thank you both for your openers. We are going to move right into the questions now. Again, these questions were developed via various resources throughout the county that were unbiased. We have about 19 questions. We're going to allow 2 minutes for each to answer each question. And then again, just as a reminder, we do have note cards. Should you have questions, you can feel free to grab one of those and jot that down. We'll review those throughout, and if we have time at the end, we'd certainly welcome some of those. At the end, we'll have that 3-minute wrap-up for you to really just make any closing statements and also add any information about anything you feel maybe wasn't addressed during the forum. So I'm going to start right off with the first question for Sheriff Wolin. How are you currently active in the community? What groups or organizations are you affiliated with within Adams County?
You can hear me okay? If I stand, better if I stand? Okay. I've been active in youth volunteering or part of youth programs for about over 17 years now, primarily through our children. Continue that. My wife and I have continued that with taking on leadership roles in the youth soccer program. Beyond the years of our children being involved in youth soccer, we're involved in youth football again, despite the fact that our kids again are grown and moved on. Also, trying to find different ways of being engaged within the community. Often you would find us at volunteering at the Second Harvest, other community events, having community events to show our support within the community. I guess that would be
Okay. Perfect, thank you. Investigator York, I'll repeat the question. How are you currently active in the community? What groups or organizations are you affiliated with within Adams County?
Yes, thanks. So most of my community involvement was with my kids and coaching at different levels. This past year I got out of most of those, anticipating that this campaign would focus a lot of my time and energy, and so I got rid of those roles to be able to better focus on this. However, I still am a board member for the Coloma Pathfinders. Even though it is in Coloma, we have 24 miles of trails in Adams County. Deal with all kinds of landowners from the Coloma that joins in with the other trail systems with the snowmobile organizations in Adams County. I'm also a DNR hunter safety instructor that we commonly put on classes and deal with the kids. As well as just my kids being in school in different sporting events. We're in the community most every night. Thank you.
Thank you. For question 2, we'll start with you, Investigator York. As a lifelong resident of Adams County, how have you seen a change in our community's needs? And where do you see the best opportunities to address these needs as sheriff?
Well, probably the biggest thing with our community for needs is a need for the drug problem. When I went to high school, there wasn't drugs, maybe a little marijuana. There wasn't the meth. There wasn't the heroin going around. I guess if it was, I was immune to it. I didn't know about it. Our kids aren't as fortunate. They see it. It's available to them on a daily basis. It's in our schools. That's our biggest need, in my opinion. And that's been a cornerstone of my campaign, is to better address the drug problem. We don't focus on drugs on a daily basis in our sheriff's office right now. As big as a problem as our drugs are in this community that you see all the time, the overdose deaths, everything else, there's not a daily briefing, go to this house, check on this house, follow up on this, doesn't happen. So that would be a major focus for me.
Thank you. Sheriff Bowen, I'll repeat the question for you. As a lifelong resident of Adams County, how have you seen a change in our community needs? And where do you see the best opportunities to address these needs as sheriff?
I share Investigator York's opinion about the focus on the drugs, and I think that's where we've shown that this isn't an issue that we can arrest our way out of, that we have to look at how we can approach the drug issues that are facing our community and communities across the nation in a different way. That's why I'm very proud of the fact that I've partnered with other professionals within our community to start a first treatment court. That's to address the needs, the underlying issue of the drug issue, addiction that's leading to criminal behaviors. Then also very proud of the fact of partnering with Health and Human Services as well as Marquette County and Juneau County to apply for grant funding to bring in a behavioral health and recovery center into Adams County at the Old Russia Creek Clinic. That's the work that's going on there, and then that should be opening here very soon. Also, another resource within our community to address the drug addiction that we're facing. Beyond that, we're going to continue to do our traditional law enforcement approach of gathering information, building cases, making arrests, executing warrants, and sending people to jail and prison. That's going to continue. Beyond that, the other issues that are facing our community are our mental health needs. That we have a high demand on mental health. That drain on the Health and Human Services. That's a drain on law enforcement services. That's a drain, honestly, on our school. That's why the school has taken steps to bring mental health first aid into the school. And that's, again, an area that we partnered with the school to address that in a more proactive way through training staff and those around students to identify red flags or identify behaviors in individuals, in our students, and address that before they go into crisis. So I would say that those are probably the two biggest areas that we're facing. Thank you.
Thank you. For question 3, we'll start with you, Sheriff Wolin. As a career law enforcement official in Adams County, what do you feel are your top 3 achievements that have positively impacted our community? And then tell us about an instance where you faced one of your biggest challenges. How did you react and what was the outcome?
And 3 achievements of money. In my role as law enforcement, I think that some of the probably looking at this, my 3 biggest achievements is first one that obviously stands out to me is being elected as sheriff and serving the citizens of Adams County in that capacity for the last 8 years. I'm certainly proud of the fact that the citizens have put their trust in me in this position and bringing leadership of the sheriff's office into a positive direction. And that's certainly probably first and foremost in my mind. That the career that I've had in law enforcement, 19 years with the sheriff's office here, 4 years as security police in the Air Force. That's a long-standing law enforcement career. I'm certainly proud of that. And also, I really enjoyed the time that I had as a school resource officer, working with our youth, working with staff, and working with the parents to try to make that a safer environment for our students, for the teachers, and to be able to build those relationships again with our youth and our community. The biggest challenge, I can say that probably the biggest challenge that I've faced in my career in law enforcement overall in the capacity as sheriff has been that I've been placed in a position to address individuals' job performances, and that is not always the easiest thing to do. So that would be my biggest answer.
Yeah. All right, we'll ask you the same question, Investigator York. As a career law enforcement official in Adams County, what do you feel are your top 3 achievements that you have positively impacted our community? And then also tell us about an instance where you faced one of your biggest challenges. How did you react and what was the outcome?
So my top 3 career achievements, number 1 would be getting hired here. I was still in college in 1996 when they built a new jail back then, and I was very fortunate enough to get hired then and to be able to stay here and live here my whole life. It doesn't happen to everyone in law enforcement. If that hadn't been timed that way, I don't know where I'd be. And so since then, being promoted within the department by numerous different sheriffs, I guess I might add, except for Sheriff Wolin. And I only say that today because I'm trying to keep my emotions under control for what's been going on. But I was promoted to the road, a traffic sergeant, and an investigator by 3 different sheriffs. All those sheriffs saw my qualities, my workmanship, my dedication to the job. I've worked diligently on all my cases. I've handled a lot of tough cases, a lot of the big cases that you guys read about in the paper, especially as an investigator. So my biggest challenge came yesterday and today. I have led 22 years at the department, and this is new to me. This is uncharted territory. I don't know what to expect. And so time will tell how I handle it and how I proceed. I've had a lot of support in the people that I've talked to in the last 24 hours about this, and a lot of encouragement to continue on with this election to make the changes that need to be changed. Thank you.
Thank you. For question 4, we'll start with you, Investigator York. As a small rural community, partnerships are critical to achieving goals. What do you feel are the Sheriff's Office's most successful partnerships? How do you plan on maintaining those partnerships? And how do you plan on maintaining those partnerships?
So probably the most important partnerships that we had is just working with other law enforcement agencies, the different community functions and groups, the school systems, and the day-to-day contacts that we have in our jobs, whether it be social services, probation and parole, different police agencies. And we're just going to maintain those. Those relationships have been established long ago in this county. They've been ongoing, continue to be built, and they will continue to strive with me as sheriff.
Thank you. Sheriff Boland, as a small rural community, partnerships are critical to achieving goals. What do you feel are the Sheriff's Office most successful partnerships, and how do you plan on maintaining those partnerships?
First and foremost with our citizens. Our citizens have that partnership, that trust from our citizens to come forward with information, to trust in us to do the right thing, perform the best, and provide the best level of service that we can. I think that's the most important. Maintaining that relationship with the citizens is interacting with them in a proactive way. There's been a number of initiatives that we've undertaken as a sheriff's office to reach out to the community, partner with the community. And we've seen an increase in information flowing through the sheriff's office and that we've been able to build cases upon. So I think that through that, maintaining that relationship is first and foremost the most important, is maintaining a relationship with our citizens. Beyond that, professional relationships, I think Health and Human Services has been a good one. We're facing a lot of those issues, similar issues, and that when we can approach that in different ways and look at how we can approach that in more of a wraparound approach, I think that we're more successful in what we're both doing. Also, obviously, the school system is that relationship with our youth is vital within our community. Having 2 school resource officers in the school provide that direct relationship with the students, with the staff. We're a part of the school system. We have staff that are trained that do training within the school with students again and staff, with parents. And I think maintaining those relationships is also very important. So obviously those are the ones that stick out to me.
Thank you. Question 5, we will start with you, Sheriff Boland. For more than a decade, the state jail inspections have concluded that the Adams County Jail, because of design, is not compliant with state statutes. What is the sheriff's role and responsibility in ensuring this issue gets addressed before it becomes a liability for taxpayers? For more than a decade, the state jail inspections have concluded that the Adams County Jail, because of design, is not compliant with state statutes. What is the sheriff's role and responsibility in ensuring this issue gets addressed before it becomes a liability for taxpayers?
The sheriff, by statute and constitution, has the responsibility of overseeing the county jail. In that's obviously the primary area of focus and concern with the Department of Corrections and the notice that they given back in 2006. So like I said, this has been an ongoing matter. This is now, I'm sure that everyone has seen, this is now the 3rd study that's been done into trying to remedy the concerns that were shared with the Department of Corrections as far as the building design. Our building design from the get-go was built very well as a jail, but we have law enforcement functions operating within the jail. And in any other facility you would see throughout the state or throughout the nation would have a clear separation between law enforcement and correction functions of the sheriff's office. And we, by building design, lack that. Outside of that, the sheriff also has a statutory obligation to serve upon the court. We have a direct connection with the court. We have inmates that are in our custody and care that are into the court. And so this is beyond the scope of simply just the jail itself. So I know that the courtroom and the flow of that, the security in the courtroom has also been, we've been taking steps to try to address that in the best we can with what we have currently. We know about the issue, and even board members that shared at county board meetings, that we've known about the issue for how long. We need to take steps, reasonable steps, to ensure that we're providing a safe environment, we're meeting our statutory obligations, we're providing a safe environment for our staff, for the inmates, and for the citizens that come to the courthouse, and not just because of coming to it, but are visiting, but also those that we obligate to come to it. We have them come to the courthouse because of being subpoenaed for court or things like that. So we have an obligation to provide a safe environment.
Thank you. And Investigator York, I'll repeat the question. For more than a decade, the state jail inspections have concluded that the Adams County Jail, because of design, is not compliant with state statutes. What is the sheriff's role and responsibility in ensuring this gets addressed before it becomes a liability for taxpayers?
Right, so that jail they built when I got hired here, right? Yeah, it was a design flaw from the beginning, and everyone has known it. And like Sheriff Bullen just said, we've known about it. What's been done? For 7.5 years he's been sheriff, nothing's been done. Just recently, we put up what I call go to Walmart and you see the liquor aisle and they close at 9 o'clock, they got that little accordion gate. That's what we have now to separate the jail from the sheriff's office. That's right outside my office door. Opens and closes. It's not fixed to the wall, it's not secured. It would hardly or merely stop an inmate or slow them down to get out of the jail. So that's what's happened in the last, 6 or 9 months of everything that you guys have read about in the newspaper. So it is a liability that needed to be addressed long ago to move on and press on to get the issue resolved. The number one liability to a county is the jail. And it's the sheriff's authority or statutory requirement to provide safety and security of the jail. And that really hasn't happened, or it's taken a long time, and I'm slowly progressing to get there.
Thank you. As we progress, we want to make sure that we focus on answering the question itself. We don't want to want to know what you're going to do about the situation, not so much what's occurred, but where we're moving and heading forward. So with question 6, we'll start with you, Investigator York. What is the sheriff's role in addressing and resolving the known security issues within the jail and the courthouse?
So, real close to did you see the courthouse or the sheriff's department?
The jail and the courthouse.
Okay. So the issues with the courthouse ultimately would be the responsibility of the county board. I feel the county board should be the ones that go ahead to present the ideas. It's not the sheriff's office. Certainly the sheriff could consult or add expert opinions on design or security issues or controls. But ultimately the courthouse side of it, I would say, would be on the county board side. The jail security, I guess I'd just refer back to the last question. It's the number one liability to a county. And by statute, we have to keep that safe and secure for the inmates and the employees. And by putting up this accordion gate a long time ago to being able to just focus ahead on a better resolution than to fight the process, that needed to happen a lot sooner, and we need to move ahead with that.
Thank you. Sheriff Woolen, same question. What is the sheriff's role in addressing and resolving the known security issues within the jail and the courthouse?
As I stated in the previous question, the sheriff has a statutory obligation to ensure public safety, to maintain the jail, and also, again, to serve upon the board. So in that responsibility is, I'd say it's a partnership, again, with the county board to come to a resolution to address those issues. Obviously, the county board sets the budget. I'm obligated as a sheriff to operate within that budget, and that we need to try to identify cost-effective means of addressing the concerns that we've identified, and to ensure that we have a safe environment throughout the building. And beyond that, that we provide a safe environment for the courthouse and the administrative offices. A lot of facilities have gone to a single point of access with screening, so that when they come in, that they're ensured that people aren't bringing contraband in, aren't bringing weapons in to the building. Our building configuration is not conducive to that type of a system. So again, we've been continuing to work with the county board, working with the Department of Corrections to come up with a solution to the issue that they've identified and that they gave an order to fix. We're in the process, here, the final steps here now of, we have an approved plan by the state that's been reviewed by the Department of Corrections to go forward with a permanent fixture within that hallway. The county board has made it very clear that they're going to support that project being completed. And then as we continue beyond that, we'll look at a long-term plan, long-term solutions that again, at being fiscally responsible and addressing those solutions in the best way that we can.
Thank you. To Investigator York, same question. What do you view as, oh, sorry, we're starting with Sheriff Wolin. Question 7. What do you view as the strengths of the Sheriff's Department today? How do you plan to preserve or expand on those areas?
The strengths of the Sheriff's Office are the staff. It's hiring good people, keeping good people that are there for the right reasons. I often refer to it as having that service mark, that they're because they care. They have something in them that drives them to serve others. And that having good staff, I think, is certainly one of the strengths that we have, and trying to attract and retain those good staff members is very important. Working with the county board, who sets the wages and benefits package for the employees, and advocating for the staff. Also, we have Sheriff's Office is in a unique position. Half of the staff still have their bargaining rights, and half of the staff do not. Half of the staff get to negotiate for their wages, and half of the staff have to accept the wages and benefits package as they are presented by the county. That can be difficult at times, but again, I think working with, whether it's the union or whether it's the county board, or really the county board of both, and making sure that we're providing a fair and competitive wage and benefit package to attract and retain good people is important in that. And making it an environment that people want to be a part of.
Okay, thank you. Investigator York, same to you. What do you view as the strengths of the Sheriff's Department today, and how do you plan to preserve or expand on those areas?
It's the staff. Our staff in our Sheriff's Office are the number one most important thing, for sure. Just like any business, you have to have happy employees. The difference with the private business is happy employees making more money, and in county government, it's not about making money. There's not as much of a focus on making the people, staff happy. But that's number one. That's what we need to, I guess, maintain or get to before we can preserve it. Our staffing has had a lot of turnover within the departments for many years. We do have a hard time attracting people that want to come here, that want to work here, that want to stay here. And that goes to some of the work environments that needs to be worked on within the Sheriff's Office to be able to get those people, to keep them here, and throw leaders out of them and keep them here forever.
Thank you. I was going to say, feel free to move that fan behind you. I know it's been a little bit of a struggle with the papers, so feel free to do that. We will start with you, Investigator York, on question 8. What do you view as the weaknesses of the Sheriff's Department today? How do you propose addressing those?
Well, there's a lot of weaknesses, and I think I shouldn't say a lot. There's some weaknesses, like there is in any agency, and I think one of the biggest ones that is just with just with the information that comes in with the drugs. Drugs is our biggest problem externally within the community, within the county. And like I said, there's not enough of a focus. We have one investigator that is primary drug officer. If he gets assigned another case, then drugs aren't a focus. Drugs aren't taken care of on his behalf. And nobody really picks up the slack until there's an overdose, and then we all have to obviously address that. So that's going to be a different area. We're going to focus. We're going to have people designated to work on the drug problem. I know that we can't arrest our way out of it, but I'll cover that at the end a little bit in my closing. You know, some of the other weaknesses is just, and it kind of goes to the environment and the sheriff's department. Prior to me running for office, I would go weeks or days, a lot of times commonly without seeing the sheriff, without talking to him, without, hey, what did you do this weekend? Did you do anything fun with your family? Just being a person, being personable. Same thing would go with the chief deputy. I mean, that's the kind of environment that we have. We have a tough job, but we're still people. And to be personable within the department brings a whole other level to the job.
Thank you. To you, Sheriff Wolin, what do you view as the weaknesses of the Sheriff's Department today, and how do you propose addressing those?
I guess back to what I said before, the strength is also a weakness of staff. We have had a lot of turnover, and we've had a lot of turnover for different reasons, but this isn't distinct to Adams County. This isn't distinct just to law enforcement. All sorts of trades are seeing that a lack of pool of candidates that attracting those people to those different fields. Law enforcement is the same. Sitting in on interviews again this week with other agencies, it's the same thing. They've said that they used to have 100 applicants for one position. They're lucky now if they even get 40. The last application pool they had 10. We're seeing a similar thing. You can argue that it's generational. You can argue that it's the light that's on law enforcement now. There's a number of contributing factors, I think, in that we have to overcome. But with that being said, I think in Adams, we are very fortunate that we have built that relationship with our community. We have that trust with our community. And I think that we have a very positive relationship with our community overall. So I think that's certainly one thing that we have that is going for us that maybe some other agencies don't have that could attract people here. Again, we have to continue to work on that wage and benefit package to attract and retain, making that environment something that people want to be a part of. Other weakness we have to see, I think we have to, if we have to operate within the budget that we have. And that I understand that the county board is in a difficult place to look at. They have a certain amount of money and they have a lot of services that they provide within the community, and they have to make that decision of where that money is best spent. Sometimes we've had to, because of that, we've been under some budget restrictions for a number of years that I think that has impact overall operations. But even in that, we've found positive community support to continue to grow different programs through donations. And that, again, having those partnerships within the community, we've actually been able to turn those programs into, thank you.
Thank you. Almost halfway through, so. Question 9, Sheriff Wolin, we'll start with you. What, in your opinion, is the #1 crime-related issue that needs an immediate plan of action from the next sheriff?
As we both said, it's the drug issues that we're facing, but again, just can't reiterate that enough, that it's not distinct to Adams County. This is going on throughout the state, throughout the country. It's not just the drug issues, but also the associated property crimes that go along with that. That we see commonly that people are committing property crimes, such as theft or burglary, to support their drug habit because they aren't able to maintain the skills because of their jobs, because of their addiction. So that's certainly an issue that I think needs to be continued to work on. I think that we've taken great strides in what we've done with addressing the drug issues that are facing Adams County. Again, through the starting of the treatment court, that's been a year running now. We haven't had any graduates from the program, but we have had many successes in that. We have individuals who are employed now who have obtained their driver's license. We have one that hasn't had a driver's license yet, who is going to be taking his test soon to have a driver's license. Those are very positive things. And when you have that positive thing going for them, then it's changing the person who they are again at the core, and that addiction that was leading to that criminal behavior. The Behavioral Health and Recovery Center that's coming into Adams. Again, that's a great resource that we haven't had before that's addressing that drug issue that we're seeing. Again, it's the drug issue, and what we've done, and we'll continue to look at other ways, innovative ways that we can look at how we can approach this from different ways, not just, like I said before, not just arresting our way out of it.
Thank you. We'll go to you, Investigator York, with the same question. What, in your opinion, is the number one crime-related issue that needs an immediate plan of action from the next sheriff?
Like I said in my opening, it's a drug problem. It's a drug epidemic. And it isn't, you're right. It isn't unique just to Adams. It is around everywhere. The part of the difference is what we do here versus what other agencies or other counties do. So with that, in my brochure literature, if anyone's seen it, problem-oriented policing. Okay, so it's a concept that's been around for a while. It actually was somewhat started in Wisconsin here, and that deals with the problems associated with drug use. All the related crimes that go around with the drug use and the problems and conditions. You look at that as the source of why there is the drug problem. Okay, you still have to react to it and handle it, but when doing that, it has to be proactive. We're not proactive in drug enforcement. We're very seldomly and very little do we actually do that. That has a lot to do with our staffing. That has a lot to do with our other caseloads and assignments that take away from the drugs investigations. So to solve the drug problem actually relates to a lot of other problems with mental health, child abuse, child neglect that occurs within the community. Those are some of the related problems with the drug problem that a problem-oriented policing philosophy identifies and develops a plan for. And again, it's proactive, and with being proactive in that, you're going to develop new relationships with people, being in the community and different organizations that you're going to get information on and be able to react on in a timely fashion as the drugs they're here and gone. They use them. It's not like the old days of marijuana where they had pounds and pounds of marijuana processing at the table. Heroin is small and it's going fast.
Thank you.
When you do that, is that 5 seconds? Is that, or is that done? Oh, that's like, okay. That's 5? Okay, thank you. I just.
And thank you both for keeping time. It's not gone off too often, so we're moving along, so thank you very much. Next question we have is going to switch gears a little bit, and we'll start with you, Investigator York. With 60 employees and a budget of over $6.2 million of taxpayer dollars, what's the number one challenge facing the next Adams County Sheriff when it comes to management of the department?
Yes, with 60 employees and the budget that's set aside, I think the biggest problem is keeping the employees there. They'll reduce the overtime budget by a lot. I think it was this spring we had a county training here, and the county insurance lady was here and said it costs an estimated $57,000 to replace one patrol officer. Well, I know I lost track this year, but I think the year before and the year before that, we hired 8 officers each year. I'm not that good with numbers, but that's a lot of money. Because we're 24/7, we have to fill those shifts. People have to be here. When you call 911, we have to be there. We spend a lot of money on overtime filling vacant shifts. so that we can be there for the community when you call, when you need something. When I started on the road, it was common for 2 officers 20 years ago. A lot's changed in Adams County in 20 years. But we ran with 2 officers occasionally in recent months because of staffing, because we can't keep people here. Overtime in all the divisions within the sheriff's office is a lot. I believe the date was September 3rd. I did an open records request to the Adams County requesting overtime numbers by division. It's October 10th. I've yet to receive that open records request. I don't know what that number is. I did that so I could talk about that tonight. So, in summary, that's the biggest challenge within the department, the budget, and I believe there's probably upwards of $500,000 of overtime every year that's spent that we could reduce.
Thank you. Same question to you, Sheriff Woolen. With 60 employees and a budget of over $6.2 million of taxpayers' dollars, what's the #1 challenge facing the next Adams County Sheriff when it comes to management of the department?
I have to agree with Investigator York. It's the staffing. That employees, the wages and benefits make up the largest portion of the budget. And so in that's where we spend the most money. It's not in equipment and things like that. It's in the staff, their wage and benefits. We have had to look at how we can do staffing differently. We have reduced some of that overtime through setting the staffing levels, trying to operate within that budget as set by the county board. We're trying to operate within that budget. If money was no object, obviously we would have all kinds of staff, but that's not the case. It's looking at ways of how we can, again, back to keeping employees, but in that also understanding that with that turnover, we have had the turnover, but a lot of turnover that we've had has been for reasons outside of they've left the field completely. Most of the jail staff that have left the field of corrections completely. With some of the stuff, we lost 3 employees to the railroad, making 6 figures. We're not going to compete with those types of wages as a sheriff's office in any position or as a county in any position. So if they're looking at pursuing a different career, I don't know how you really compete with that. Beyond that, as like I said, is making sure that we're attracting people that want to be here for the right reasons, that are of good character, and that will train them the skills to be successful in law enforcement. And again, looking at how we can work with the county board to identify those needs and setting that budget limit and again, our staffing level.
Thank you. The next question was really about the drug problem and opioid problem, which I think you've really addressed. You've really both of you hit that, so I think I'm going to move on to the next one. And we'll start with you, Sheriff Woolen. Tragic school shootings around the country have parents, school districts, and law enforcement agencies looking for ways to ensure their schools are always safe. What plans do you have when it comes to school safety? What policies would you enact and why?
Policies as far as school safety, I know the school has been very active in applying for grant funding through the Safe School Grant that's been made available in the state of Wisconsin. They applied and it received funds for the first phase to, those funds have been used to harden the target or harden the facility to make it less accessible to those who may come to cause harm. So we certainly have written letters of support for the school district to receive those funds. Outside of that, what we've already been doing and we will continue to do is that we will be a partner with the school district and ensure a safe environment. We go in and do active shooter training with the staff. We've gone in and done active shooter training with the students. Setting up a plan with them to have that on a more regular basis, I think is important. We've done training for staff. We've done training with the schools. And Also addressing it from other means. Like I said before, that we have a staff member that is trained in the mental health first aid, who works with the staff as well as other parents and adults that interact with the students to identify students who may be displaying some behaviors prior to it becoming a crisis, and being able to address that and give the appropriate resources to those individuals so they don't go into crisis, and therefore, again, making a safer environment for the school.
Thank you. Same question to you, Investigator York. Tragic school shootings around the country have parents, school districts, and law enforcement agencies looking for ways to ensure their schools are always safe. What plans do you have when it comes to school safety, and what policies would you enact and why?
So where a lot of the area could be focused on is just in some training and planning. I think parents being active in their kids' lives, being there for them, being open, being able to talk to them, being a friend, knowing who their friends are, will give the chance that some of this stuff will come to light before it actually happens. Many years ago, when Sheriff Sindler was the sheriff and I was a road officer, I was involved in some kids that stole the car, took guns. They were going to go to the school and do just that. That was a long time ago. We came a long ways with planning and training and knowledge because of what has happened around the world, around the country with these school shootings. There's a lot of things that can be done on everyone's behalf, our behalf, the school's behalf, working together with designs and functions of the schools to reduce free movement within the school buildings. Training with the staff as well, and the parents, knowing what to expect. When and if something like that does happen, how do you get notified? I envision it, we've trained it, it's somewhat of chaos. Kids are running around, we're running to the building, to gunshots, kids are running out, staff's running out. We've done a good job for many years, training and doing that, and prepping as much as we can. So I think we just continue to build on it.
Thank you very much. The next question will start with you, Investigator York. Please explain the impact of poverty on law enforcement and how you plan on addressing that.
Explain
The impact of poverty on law enforcement and how you plan on addressing that.
So Adams County is a poor county. We go into a lot of those houses. A lot of the houses that we do go into are a result of the drug investigations, the child abuse cases, child neglect cases. It's more than a sheriff's department problem. It's a community problem as much as anything else. We need to be there for the citizens that call, that make us go to those houses, to provide the resources for the families, the kids, of why we're there for whatever that case is, whatever that reason is.
Okay, thank you. Sheriff Wolin, same question to you. Please explain the impact of poverty on law enforcement and how you plan on addressing that.
Poverty affects a lot of things that we do within law enforcement. As Investigator York already said, that obviously we are in our poverty-stricken county. That leads to issues in health, that leads to issues with drug issues that we've already discussed quite thoroughly. Also other trauma that individuals, particularly children, face as a result of that poverty. So as how to address those issues, I think again is through those partnerships, by making sure that we have have good working relationships with the other entities within the county, so that when we do identify those issues, that we can refer those individuals to the right resources and have that good communication, so we can have what we refer to as a warm handoff, and know that it is our issue in law enforcement. It isn't something that we can just say that, hey, that's not my job. It's having, again, back to having the right people with the right mindset and having that service heart and that good character, identifying those things, knowing what the resources are within the community, and pointing those individuals in the right direction.
Thank you. Like 5 more questions. So, thank you. We'll start with you, Sheriff Wolin, on this next one. What are your plans on keeping the staff of the Sheriff's Department free of secondary trauma, including PTSD?
We started as an industry in law enforcement, starting to recognize the impacts of PTSD on law enforcement, and other professionals such as health and human services who are put into those situations of that trauma. I have, as a part of my new hires, and for all staff, I provided a resource that's called Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. Provided that book to them, discussed that with all the new hires, the resources that are available through PAP, as well as brought in training to the community and capture the Sheriff's Office staff and training on that mental health wellness for law enforcement. And that identifying those things that can be triggers, that can impact you, and how to identify those and how to deal with them, and again, reaching out to those resources. We've done a number of trainings. That is certainly something that I would like to expand on as an overall officer wellness program going forward, not just in mental health, but physical health and financial health, and I think that those things are all very important to a overall well-being of the staff, and having a long, successful career in law enforcement, and more importantly, as a chair of the staff, it's more important to me also to have for them to have a long, successful retirement. Unfortunately, in law enforcement, individual studies show that we in law enforcement have a life expectancy, a very short life expectancy beyond retirement based upon the stress that we undergo in law enforcement during that time. So it's important to develop those skills while you're in the career, to be successful and healthy in the career, and then beyond that to be healthy in your retirement.
Thank you. Same question to you, Investigator York. What are your plans on keeping the staff of the Sheriff's Department free of secondary trauma, including PTSD?
So, I'll go back to 2003 when one of our officers was killed. Our department was different then. We were a family. I remember being there that day, coming back to the office, and all the people working there, I felt like family. We don't have that today. I go to calls, I gotta look at their name tags, because I don't know who they are. It's a different environment. I'm not used to it. It makes it tough because we do see the difficult things. We see those a lot on a daily basis. Knowing one another, being personable and approachable will help that on a daily basis. On situations that require a debriefing, we seldomly have debriefing on incidents of anything major. A debriefing could be as informal as me and a couple of investigators talking with my lieutenant about what happened, what we saw, what we thought, what we experienced, what we could do better, and go into a lot of different parts of that. You know, we have had some training and in this area, and it's come a long ways. It's something that, quite honestly, cops, we're not used to. We don't want that extra hand from outside sources, because we're there, we're the protector, right? But that's changing. And, you know, like yesterday was a great example when I left the office. and nothing happened. Nobody reached out from command or anybody to say anything, to offer anything, to do anything. Sent me home knowing the impact of this.
Thank you. The next question will start again with you, Investigator York. What do you feel are the primary and secondary functions of the Adams County Sheriff's Department?
Well, the primary function by statute is the jail. Because the jail is the number one, within the first couple words of the sheriff's authority in the statute, is the jail, safety and security of the inmates. That's number one. The second function is the safety and security of the county, provide services to the county to make sure that we have staffing, that we're there. When you call, we'll be there. There's a lot that goes into both of those and to the organization as a whole. There's a lot of moving parts that go inside the jail, patrol, and all the other divisions within the sheriff's office. So those would be the primary and secondary functions of the sheriff's office.
Okay, thank you very much. Same question to you, Sheriff Woolen. What do you feel are the primary and secondary functions of the Adams County Sheriff's Department?
Primary function, I would say, is overall public safety. That carries over all aspects of the sheriff's office, oversees. Dispatch, for example, is not just responsible for the sheriff's office, also responsible for the fire departments, the ambulance services, the DNR services. They have a lot of responsibility in that, and that all relates under that umbrella of public safety, as well as the other divisions of the sheriff's office. It all ties back to public safety. As far as the secondary functions, I guess I kind of struggled in identifying what would be a primary and secondary function as far as the sheriff's office, and what would be second to that. It's overall covered by public safety.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody that we have note cards here. If anybody would like to ask questions, we look like we are going to have some time to address some of those. So if you would like to come and get a note card, write down your question and drop it off up front. We'll take a peek at those. We have a couple questions left and then those 3-minute closings. So the next question we have, we'll start with you, Investigator York. What would be your role? Oh, I'm sorry. We'll start with you, Sheriff Woolen. What is your knowledge of community health improvement plan? What is your knowledge of the community health improvement plan?
The community health improvement plan was a primary function that was put together by Health and Human Services to identify the areas within the community that where the county is, say, I don't say lacking, could use improvement on. And those areas such as our overall health, that relates to, that ties to tobacco use, alcohol use, mental health, things like that. And some of the things that could be put into place to, as a county to address. I guess it's overall.
Okay, thank you. Investigator York, same question. What is your knowledge of the community health improvement plan?
I have no knowledge of it. I don't know, I've never heard of it. So I don't